And welcome back to Magic the Gathering Online Legacy Review. This again, Rock versus Bug, Round 2, Game 3. Our hand, our hand isn't that great. It is essentially fine. What we are doing here is basically planning on wasting out our opponent. They didn't show us very many basics. We're counting on them not having a way to find another one. We're counting on them not having Stifle. That's a big thing here. We end up playing into what could be Stifles a bunch in this match. A lot of things are done out of order. Our opponent never really gets into the match, but because of the order that we opt to do things in, we allow them the possibility to be. Here on the LD plan, just immediately go for it. It's not a blue, so we know that we're getting this Bayou free of charge. And we have 3 other lands besides the Wasteland. This comes up to our first misplay, and it's an order at time of which we do it. I mean, we just play it and go for it, and that's wrong. We should have waited until their upkeep. That way they would not have drawn a new card. If they did have something, it would be done on their turn. I mean, if they do Brainstorm, then yes, go for it. But you can't stop anything that they would have done. There was no point actually doing that. That leads us into our second misplay. We're only 3 turns in and we're already at 2 misplays. And it's the choice of when to fetch again. Like when to use the activated ability. Yes, this is game 3. We've seen that our opponent is more of a bug control list. Chances of them having Stifle are very minimal. But that's still a chance. Why play into it? We should have fetched already. Getting a non-basic is even fine. I mean, if they waste us, that's 3 lands of theirs. We still have 3 lands beyond that. And it's not like we have other plays from there. So baiting the Wasteland isn't even a bad choice. But when we chose to do it, that is a bad choice. Here we are at the 2-minute 15-second mark. Or I'm sorry, 2-minute 20, almost 25-second mark. 2 minutes 15 is how long I've been talking already for this one. We have our next choice, and we play Liliana here, which is wrong. We have no good reason to play Liliana. He's got nothing on board, and he's drawing 1 card per turn. That means that Liliana will essentially keep him at 6 cards in hand, while we lose cards. He can't do anything. Why are we playing Liliana? Why are we +1ing Liliana? Why didn't we play Stoneforge Mystic? Why didn't we play Library? Why didn't we do anything else than Liliana? She had no business being played right there. And I think it was more of my own hype for her that played her than anything. But yeah, that was entirely wrong. Here we are back at the 3-minute mark. We are just in the next turn, and that's it. The choice here, it should have been Library, then Stoneforge. Reason being, we could pay for Spell Pierce, which we end up being punished for, if I remember correctly. I haven't made it all the way through this again. There was no good point. And this time we actually do the right thing, though. We go get the creature. There was no good point to us having done what we did. It was out of order play, and we get punished for it. Luckily, we can still use Liliana, who shouldn't be on the field, but, I mean, so be it. There goes that. Our opponent gets a blue and Spell Pierces us, and we're punished. I'm going to go ahead and skip forward because I don't need to relive this too late. And we're back at the 450 mark, and we've activated Liliana, who, again, we would have 1 more card in hand at least if we did this the correct way. And we opt to get rid of Bob, which is definitely wrong. We should have gotten rid of the Batterskull, if anything. Light and Shadow is fine. Light and Shadow is the best choice, just simply because we can play the Light and Shadow off of the Stoneforge right here, right now. Start getting back Bobs. It's hard to deal with an opponent who's outdrawing you when you're basically land screwed, which is what we did to our opponent. Also, right there, right here on his turn, we made another misplay. If our opponent even removed the click to the force of will, if our opponent had played a land and activated the click, we would be down to the choice of 1 of the equipment still, but it would be our opponent's choice. which would mean that we probably would get the Light and Shadow. They can block the creature, stopping us from getting back the Bob. They could play an Edict the turn afterwards. I mean, so bad. Why did I wait? I have no clue. Just have it, that end of turn thing. There's some times that you have the time during end of turn to do stuff, and other times that you don't. This was a time that I really shouldn't have taken that risk. I mean, all it would have taken would have been a click, and this Batterskull would not have seen play unless our opponent really wanted us to have it see play. I mean, could you imagine if our opponent played click and then Threads of Disloyalty on us? Like, we'd just look at it and be like, oh, crap. We have to fight our Batterskull. Liliana is going to get hit for 6 because we would have played the sword and swung. Like, bad decision is bad, and there's no other way to put it. Until the next one. Oh, by the way, this is at the 5:26 mark. Alright. Alright, here we are again. This is my last noticed misplay of the game. Mind you, we are not very far into this game. This is like turn 6 or 7, and I have misplayed almost every single time that I've done something beyond the second turn, or beyond the first turn. So, here we have different ways of killing off his Pernicious Deed. The first one being Pulse, the most obvious. Not as worried about that. The reason being, if we Pulse it, he still has 3 lands. Liliana being a better option, because we'd still have her Edict up, we'd still have her in the field, we'd still have the Pulse and the Bob and the Stoneforge. Like, we basically give ourselves enough options to make sure that no matter what happens, our opponent is just screwed. The split that I give is the Underground Sea along with the Tropical Island, or along with the Deed and the other 2 lands. Basically, cut his board in half, taking the Trop to his side. I think that's wrong looking back on it. It should have been the Trop with the Deed, and the reason being, if he drew a land, or if he drew a creature, he could pop it down. And yeah, he could force us to sacrifice it, but I mean, we take away his ability to really play any creature other than Bob, which we swing through, and can do whatever we can do whatever we want at that point. And it would have also meant that if he drew a creature, his only creature being Goyf at that point that we had seen, he couldn't play it. He needs the land. So, like, you're giving him possibilities of more creatures as opposed to less. And that was the mistake. Luckily for us, our opponent decided to keep the Deed, and we still had the Pulse to get rid of the threat. But I mean, because if he draws a land, we lose the Stoneforge. Like, we keep Liliana because she's Deed proof. We keep the sword, so the Bob is good. But I mean, one land and suddenly we have no aggression. Yeah, still a bad place for our opponent to be in top deck mode with us having an active sword and a Liliana. But I mean, if you make a misplay, it's better to go back and realize that it's a misplay than to not. You don't know until somebody tells you.